do that. And I promise if you apply what she shares, it will work. Amen. So let's welcome Sister Green. Amen. 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 God bless you.
Thank you. Oh man, y'all just don't know. This is a blessing to be here. And I can say a whole lot about that, but I'm gonna try to stay on point. Um, First, let me say I am just in awe of you all because I could feel the spirit when I came in here. It's so loving. So thank you for that. I'm gonna just be saying thank you all night long. Let me say thank you for your Pastor Wood, because when he talked about the 10%, I used to be a financial coach, and I'll tell you about myself in a minute. I used to be a financial coach, and we had so many people that were tithing the 10%, and they were broke. They couldn't pay their bills, and they have to go to somebody else. And so I think that there's that piece that he's talking about that we have missed. And so we talk about the Bible, we talk about faith, we talk about hope, we talk about discipline. So we really need to apply what the word says, but sometimes I think we don't understand how to make that word a reality, to translate it into our everyday living. So somebody said, well, you're going to be able to teach us. I'm like, no, I'm not teaching y'all nothing y'all don't already know. And we are going to learn from each other because we all have our own experiences and we need to share those experiences with each other so we don't all make the same mistakes. I used to tell my mother growing up, you know what? When I make a mistake, it's going to be a different mistake. It's going to be a mistake that somebody ain't made because I done learned from all of my siblings and I don't want to make the same mistake. So I'm a twin. There's 5 of us in our family, and I tried to learn from their mistakes and hope that they would learn from mine. So my name is Yvonne Green. I'm gonna tell this joke. It's okay. No, you're good. I'm just saying I'm gonna tell this joke because we really need to let some stuff go. The shame of finances and all of that, let that go. So I'm gonna tell this story. So whenever somebody says Yvonne, I'll either get called Yvette, Yolanda, or I might get called Yvonne or Evelyn. That's my husband back there. His first wife was named Evelyn. So it's not a bad thing. I've been married to him 34 years. She had her time, and so everything is good. God is good. I let that go. So I'm just telling you that story because, again, we have to let some stuff go, right? She's a beautiful person, but sometimes when we're in relationships, those relationships are not meant for us, just like my job, and I had to move on. But sometimes when we talk about faith, faith is because we've already done the work. So then we shouldn't be afraid. So let me tell you a little bit about myself first. I am a social worker. That's what the LMSW is, Licensed Master Social Work. I don't know why, because when I became a social worker, I never knew what a social worker was, but somebody told me I like to help. So I'm like, okay, well, give me some letters because we need letters, right? Somebody says we need some letters. That was some easy letters to get. So I used to also work. Are y'all familiar with State Representative Garnett Coleman? So I worked in his office in the legislature, in the 83rd legislature, because as a social worker, we have to do an internship. So I wanted to see how the money comes down, how policy works, and all of that. And it was great. Not that I like politics, but I was able to see how things work. So moving forward, I've been in nonprofit for probably about 14 years, and I used to work for Southwest and Bell back in the day. So from that journey, I was a financial coach. I was a housing counselor. I was an AmeriCorps. Anybody familiar with AmeriCorps? AmeriCorps is basically you do service in the community and you get paid an education stipend. You really don't get paid much. All of that. So my last job I worked at was called Bank On. Bank On, it's an initiative all across the U.S. I'm not there now, but it's an initiative out of City Controller Chris Brown's office. It's a great initiative that's actually advocating for people to have safe and affordable banking. By the time I get to my other slides, I'll probably be told my whole story. So back in the 80s, if anybody remember Weingarten's, how many from Houston? Okay, so I'm gonna tell you this story. What'd you say? That was the store, right? So I went in Weingarten's one day, and I went to the counter, and apparently I didn't have enough money. So the clerk say, Miss Green, you need to call your bank. I'm thinking, call my bank? Why I need to call my bank? So I guess I didn't have enough money in the bank. So, I was a little ashamed, but what else could I do? But back in those days, when they opened the cash register, they had this tablet. They checked to see if your name is on the tablet, right? But now, instead of checking the tablets, you can have whatever you like. You can spend whatever you want. And guess what? you're going to get charged a $35 fee because you're going to get charged overdraft fee. So now the banks, the financial system realize that they can make money off of our bad financial behaviors. So we have to figure out, okay, how do I get my money back? How do I not have that behavior? Because somebody's going to make money off of my behavior. I need to change my behavior. So with that, I'm going to be talking about balancing life and banking, because we need to balance life and banking and why it matters. And so I looked up financial health, and these were a couple of the definitions. No, go ahead. What do you need? Oh, that's okay. Oh, okay. No, I don't need it. I just have this paperwork. It's like my safety net. You know, Snoopy when he have his. That's just what that is. So with financial health, it was described as a term used to describe the state of one's personal financial situation. There's a book that's called What It's Worth, Financial Health and Well-Being. It's about feeling in control of your personal finances and having the confidence and resources to set and achieve financial goals. In the end, it's about how satisfied you are with your financial situation. Everybody's situation is different. Not everybody want to own a home. Not everybody needs a home. Not everybody want to have kids. Not everybody needs to have kids. So we have to know what our financial situation is and what is it that we want to accomplish. And if we want to accomplish that, just know that you can do it. But without faith, without works is dead. Just know you got to put the work into it. And so last, I found Forbes said 7 reasons why you need a financial health day. So sometimes that means we have to stop, put together a budget, figure out how much we got coming in, figure out how much we have going out, so that we can be financially healthy. And so showing up to create your best life. Tell me, somebody, why did y'all show up today? Because I want this to be interactive. What did y'all come hoping to hear? How you can save some money. Somebody else. Financial freedom. Anybody else? How to get some money. So everybody, y'all all know that we got all those answers in here already. Y'all know that, right? Y'all don't really need to hear me say it, but we are going to talk about it. And then the second part of this, when you come back, we're going to do some work. Okay? And so hopefully by the time you leave here today, you have gotten some of those answers. So create a positive banking experience. Like, what's your banking experience like? So I kind of just told you mine. My parents ended up in bankruptcy. So they got out of it. And then my dad, I was born to older parents. He passed like the year that President Obama got elected. And I remember sitting there with him. We cried because he never thought that a black president would become president. And he never thought that he would be out of debt. But he got out of debt on a very limited income. And he said, baby, I want you to tell my story. So his story was, you know, my dad was 90, I think right before his 90th birthday, he passed. But back in those days when they had credit, because he was in World War II, they would go to the grocery store and they would barter, I guess. You know, you didn't actually pay for stuff, I guess, if you couldn't afford it. But now we can afford stuff, but why do we have less? So basically his story was he got in debt, but he paid it off, and he did not think that he could pay it off. But I went through this journey with him. He was already not spending, but anyway, it was a whole process. So by the time you finish this, and thanks to Marquez Smith for me being here, because I know at the end of the series, I know she's also working on you to help pay off the debt or to go through that process. So what I want to also say is be aware of marketing messages. Remember the old saying, the more money you make, the more money you... Wow, y'all got that wrong. No, y'all got that right. Because what we used to say. But it's really the more money you make, the more money you save. But we've said that so much. Not necessarily that we believed it, we just said it. But now we have to start changing what we say. So it's the more money you make, the more money you save. The other old saying, give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he eats for life. That's still great, right? So my kids, my daughter is 27. She'll be 28 in a few weeks, and my son is 31. And they went to Booker T. I was standing up in the library one day looking at this Newsweek magazine. And it said, give a man a fish he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, you take away your business opportunity. So nobody wants to teach you anything, because if they teach you, You can't make money off of people. I told the kids, I said, y'all see this? Y'all see this? Of course, they looked at me like I was crazy. Miss Green, what's wrong? I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong with y'all? So just remember that marketing is something else. Then there's this commercial, because I watch television for commercials. I don't watch television to watch it. There's this GMC commercial, and I haven't seen it lately, but this man is driving this GMC truck, and he has his little boy in there. So they go home, the little boy runs in the house, and he's patiently doing something, and he's waiting on his daddy to get back home. And while he's waiting on his dad, he's in the window with his head against the window, just waiting on his daddy, right? Guess what happened when his dad comes back home? He runs out the door, and the dad has a little GMC truck in the back of the bed of that truck. I don't know, have y'all seen that before? So I have a 2-year, almost 3-year-old grandson. So I went to where was that at? James, do you remember? We went to, I can't remember if it was Target. It was one of those stores. They really had the GMC little toy truck on the shelf. I'm like, look at that. They planting that seed that my daddy got a GMC. My little boy gonna have a GMC. Did we know? Who knew that these seeds were being planted in our minds, and then we're going to spend this money, right? So now my husband and I can't remember the last time we had a car note, because we go get our cars off the salvage lot and pocket that money, right? So we have to pay attention to the messages that are coming across that's trying to get us to spend money. And so save or spend. So has anybody ever seen a commercial that talk about saving money? Anybody? Can y'all name one? What does it? Allstate? Gallery Furniture? Right. But we don't know that, because they make it sound like it's a sale, right? And you saving money because you saving money, you can go buy something, right? But how many of you encourage your friends and family to save money? Anybody? All right, okay. How many of you wish your family and friends encourage you to save money? Exactly. And so what I tell my kids is that if you say something, speak up and say, oh, you know, we really can't afford to do that. Why don't we save this money? I say, I bet you somebody else is going to be saying the same thing. Or they going to encourage you to go, and they ain't got no more money than you have. And so we really have to make this the community conversation, because we want to talk about sex more than we want to talk about savings. What's wrong with that picture? And then who's going to be paying for the bill? So anyway, y'all keep traveling with me here, but pay attention to the marketing messages, family and friends, and who you wish you, if you had a support system, like we need to figure out what will help us have the support system so that we can change. It needs to be a community conversation. So the next meeting we have, and I'll talk about this toward the end, what can we do as a community or as a church to support each other in saving money? So I'm going to talk a little bit about banking. So balancing life and banking saves you dollars. So you see that little circle? We go to work, we buy stuff, we're in debt, we have debt, we go to work, we buy stuff, we have debt, and it's this vicious cycle. But we have to understand our account options. We live in a capitalistic society. You have to remember that everything we do is going to cost what? It's going to cost money. And whose pocket is it going into? Is it going into theirs, or is it going into yours? Exactly. So we have to figure out and ask that question every time. But we have to incorporate safe and affordable banking to build savings. So there are banks that actually have second chance accounts. There are banks that have accounts that's affordable, but if you don't know the questions to ask, you might not find out about it, because they'll have like this long list of checking accounts. But it's up to you to do your homework to choose which checking account you want that works for you, right? And so I talked a little bit about the marketing. So you consider the cost of a 30-second television commercial. If during the Super Bowl, this is what these companies spent for a 30-second commercial, because they know if all of these people that's watching these football games, watching the Super Bowl, they spend all it. You know how much money they're gonna get back? I don't know either, but I know apparently it's gonna be more than what they putting out for 30 seconds. The reason that they spending that much money. And so understanding the banking system can save you money, can build your wealth, help develop discipline, and create a positive credit history. Building wealth is all about the habit of saving money. Back in the day, we used to save in the coin wrappers. Y'all remember that? And now people don't pick up pennies. Like I still pick up pennies. Actually, my husband pick them up most of the time. I'm like, you see that penny? So I'm just saying that to say that we need to value just the penny, because habit of saving is what builds wealth. It's nothing about how much money you make. That helps. But if we don't give into the things that the society is trying to tell us that we need, back in the day, our grandparents and great grandparents had so much more, and they weren't offered as much. We have more opportunity and less money when we should have more than what we have. But I think together having these community conversations will help us to build that wealth. And so what happens that if we get into that right now, what we want it right now, we end up in the cycle of debt. So the payday loans, 4 out of 10 borrowers roll over a loan 5 times and is paid $690 in fees and still owe the $500. And because we live in a capitalistic society, the more people use these, the more of them become available. You see them popping up all over the place. Supply and demand. So you keep wanting to use it, they give you more of them. But if you use the accounts that are safe and affordable, that means the banks will offer those accounts more. But as long as they're not using them, as long as people are not using them, the banks will feel like, oh, they don't need that account. We'll just close that account. Let's create something different. Because the habit of people, they want this. They want this. I went to DC. United Way asked me to go because there were a group of us there. I should have put the picture on here. There were a group of us there that were advocating against these. So it wasn't so much that, they kept saying that people want these. These products may be okay if they were affordable and people could repay them. But if they're not affordable and people can't repay them, it's not doing the masses any good. It's just giving people access to something that they don't need. Sort of like if you don't have the accounts back in the day, because back in the day, a savings account was for savings and a checking account was for checking. So that means we could not go to the bank. If you wanted to take money out the savings account, you have to literally go to the bank to take money out. You couldn't just click on a button and move money from here to there. Now you don't have money in your checking account. Now they're going to charge you from taking money out of your checking account 5 times or more. And then when you think about a checking account, if you go to the bank, okay, well, let me not get ahead of myself. And then the other thing is that with this, and this is 2012, I haven't done any research recently on this, but 641 cars were repossessed every week. And I had to go back and question that because somebody said every week. I'm like thinking to myself, yeah, every week. Let me go back and check that out. So it was every week. And again, because if we want it right now, people don't give you what you want. But then we have to be strong enough to say, okay, well, God gave us this discipline. We need to exercise that discipline. And so check cashing services versus banks and credit unions. Banks and credit unions actually cost less if we're disciplined than going to the check cashing places. And so supply and demand, I kind of mentioned that. Payday and auto type loan products are costly. Bank and credit unions and checking accounts are actually cheaper when spending is under control. If you will, like if a bank says to have the minimum balance of $50, right, that you can avoid the overdraft fees. If you can put the $50 in, not touch it, you won't get the overdraft fees as long as you stay within as long as you don't spend what you don't have. That's basically what it boils down to. If you can control yourself, not listen to the media, not listening to the messages, because if anybody ever notices when you go on the internet and you pull up whatever, if you look for some shoes, guess what's going to pop up on the side over there? Those shoes going to pop up. Have y'all ever noticed that? It's crazy. Somebody's paying big bucks to plant these seeds of spending. And so banks and credit unions and checking accounts are cheaper when savings becomes a habit. So when you get in the habit of savings and you see your change start adding up, remember when Bank of America came up with Bank of Change? Thank you. But guess what? Our grandparents used to tell us, just put my grandbaby now is feeding the pigs. I'm giving them pennies to play with. So we would feed our pig, feed our water bucket like we used to do. Then we would have the discipline and the savings would become a habit. So money when money is managed correctly, we don't have to worry about the fees. And then we also have access to safe and affordable accounts. And so, you know what? Actually, am I doing okay with time? I'm trying to watch this. So I'm gonna try this and see if it works. Is that gonna work? Oh, you know what? I think it's because you know what? Oh no, where's the huh? It went backwards. I think there it goes. Awesome. Okay. So I used to work for Bank on Houston, but these are all of the bank accounts, certified bank accounts. Okay, hold on a second. So the dots are the bank on coalitions. Coalitions or a group of banks, credit union, nonprofit organizations, people that are advocating for accounts that don't have all the overdraft and excessive fees. So the dots are actually the coalitions. There are 2,200 branches and certified accounts across the U.S. that have these accounts that we're talking about. But you have to know which account to ask for when you go into the bank. If you don't know what account to ask for, and if you don't know which account to advocate for you, they'll give you all these options. Then you have to figure out, okay, well, which account is better for me? Which account don't have the overdraft fees? And when you go into the bank, you ask for a checking account. If you're not familiar with overdraft fees, you can ask them to turn off the overdraft fee. They'll say, oh, you don't want overdraft fee? Well, you can choose to opt in, opt out. It's like, no, you don't want to choose to opt in, opt out. Just turn off the overdraft fee if you want to be disciplined and not spend more than what you can afford. Because there's a couple of options. You can choose to turn off the overdraft, or you can choose to opt in, opt out. Opt in, opt out just means that you can opt in to have overdraft fees or opt out not to have overdraft fees. But then you need to ask, okay, then what kind of fees will there be? It can be kind of complicated, but the best thing to do is to have a relationship with a financial institution so you feel comfortable enough going into the bank to ask questions, right? And then come back and talk amongst each other so you can find out other people's experiences. So how do y'all feel about banks? Somebody tell me. Like what's been your experience? Good, bad, or ugly? Bad. Why? Tell me why. Just give me one example.
I have a bank account with Wood Forest, and they're charging me, and I never knew that they were charging me for a bank account.
Found out that they were charging you? Did you ask about it? Like, what is this for? Can you explain to me the fees? Because there's sometimes when I think when they charge these fees, we have to figure out like, okay, what is it paying for? You know, is it because I overdraft? I mean, is it because I didn't have the money? Like, what is it? What am I getting back from the fees? Because these accounts, let me show you this. Hold on a second. Okay, so the dots are all the coalitions. Uh-oh. There we go. Okay, so these are all the coalitions. There's Bank on San Francisco, Bank on Indiana, all the coalitions across the U.S. Oh, this is so cool. Okay, so these are all the banks across the U.S. that offer Bank on certified accounts. And what that means is that the bank has agreed to offer an account that meet Bank on national account standards. And I'm not going to click here, but if you click right here on this Bank on national account standards, you will see a list of standards that the banks can choose from, where they're saying, okay, banks, if you agree to offer this account, you can meet these standards. They're all no overdraft. There are other small fees, like it may be a $5 monthly, a $4.95 monthly maintenance fee, because the bank still has to make money off of the account. $4.95, and I've tried this. Feel free to try this. You can try one of these. Try one of these accounts and ask them. The bank may say, well, that's $4.95. That's $60. Do you want to pay $60 for your account? Now that's $60 for the whole year. $4.95 or $5 a month. That's $60 for the whole year if it's $5 a month. But what happens if you get another account? And let's say it says, okay, you can avoid the $12.95 fee by swiping your card, 10 times? Anybody? Something like that, right? That sounds good, don't it? It sounds really good. But if you have a habit of spending, you're going to be swiping. Oh, like, yeah, I need to swipe this card. How much have you spent to avoid the $12.95 fee? More than $4.95 for the month. And it could have been more than $60 for the year. So you have to balance what works for you, because one of the other accounts, you don't have to get any of these, but you just need to balance what is the account that you are getting, how is it benefiting you. are you really saving money or are you paying more in fees? So in Texas, we have 6, like Chase, you have to ask for a secure banking account. Over there, Cadence Bank, you have to ask for an e-checking account. Who else is in Houston? Independent Bank, you have to ask for those accounts. And the sad part is that if you go into a bank and ask for some of these accounts, the banker may not even know that the account exists. You have to send them to the website, joinbankon.org. Because this is like a community service for the financial institution to offer the account. It's a give back to the community, but it's not really making the bank money. But at the same time, the more these accounts are used, supply and demand says that, okay, well, the community must have a need for the account, so we'll continue offering it. So just consider that. So these are all the accounts. These accounts will have a bank-on certified seal. And then the bank has to go through a validation process to get the account validated to even put it on the website. The account is validated and certified by the National Consumer Law Center. Okay, now how do I get back? How do I go back? That's what I forgot to ask. Where? Thank you for being here. Like, how do I go back? Now I forgot where I was at. Oh, thank you. Okay, cool. Awesome. So we've gone through that. So why does banking access even matter? Why does it matter if you're not in the financial mainstream, or why should you be in it? Well, access matters because disparities in banking contributes to greater social inequalities. Historically, people of color have faced barriers to saving, investing, and preserving financial assets. So a lot of people get wealth by being in the financial mainstream because, one, they're saving their money. If you're saving your money, you have money to invest. You have money to buy a house. You have money for financial security. And basically, maintaining a banking account is key to financial security. But not having one, banking inequality and social inequality is what kind of comes about. So this is just a slide I put up here because in some of the other states, there is a financial empowerment center that's run out of their government agencies. And on the average, the medium debt is more. There's a medium debt. If you're banked, it looks like the medium debt is more, but the average cash savings is greater. So I guess they have money to pay off their debt. And the credit score is better. So then when you get ready to buy a house or do anything that needs a credit score, your credit score has improved. But working with the financial counselors through the Financial Empowerment Center, they're working with somebody one-on-one to manage these things. So people with positive mainstream banking relationships versus those without, they save more dollars and weather financial storms. They have a support system. There's an increased sense of connection and competence, increased personal and business savings. And so everything is becoming technology. I had to do some research the other week because now we're moving to a cashless society. My daughter was telling me about a store, I think it's coming in the Galleria, where they don't have to use cash. Can't use cash. Yeah, some can't use cash, but it's trying to get people to not use cash. But I personally just believe cash is important because when we had one of the storms and I went to Payless, no, it wasn't Payless, it was Family Dollar, just to buy a candy bar. And my card, the electronics was not working. So I had to run to my car and get some cash. So we still need to have some cash on hand. Yes. And so it also increases access to credit and financial education. So when we become disciplined with our savings, it will increase our assets, like whether you want to buy a house, et cetera, et cetera. But not having an account, the negatives are average annual cost of not having a bank account. It can cost you almost $200 to use a prepaid debit card with direct deposit or check cashing and money order services, and almost $500 to use a prepaid card without direct deposit. And the source is down here. If you go to nerdwallet.com and payday loans, the medium amount is $350, medium interest is $300. But in Texas, it's actually $600 for the annual percentage rate. Texas is lovely, aren't we? So if you compare your checking accounts, when opening an account, ask questions such as, is there a minimum opening deposit? Is there a monthly maintenance fee? Are there check writing privileges? I don't think anybody hardly writes checks anymore, except for me. Overdraft and insufficient fund fees, does those fees still exist? There should not be any dormancy or any activity fees. They may call them something else, but you should always ask, because dormancy means that if you're not using your account, are they going to charge you a fee for it? So you need to ask those questions. And when comparing the bank uncertified accounts that I just showed you, with the bank or credit union list for account choices, choose the account that works for you. Encourage the least spending. Choose the account that encourages the least spending habits. Like, how many times do you have to swipe to avoid a fee? Because that's also maybe encouraging spending. That's encouraging a habit you may not want to have. And then, is it easy to manage the fees that you may incur? And then offer the least amount of fees to manage. So you want to like balance, have questions, and go to your bank and just ask those questions so you can build a relationship. It was funny because on one of our, I think it was like before Hurricane Harvey, I went to the bank and took out $2,000. My husband was like, why are you taking out $2,000? I'm like, because it makes me feel better to know I got some cash, right? I'm like, don't worry, I'll put it back. And I'm saying that to say, because he does everything electronically. I want them to see my face. So when he would go to the bank, he was a little bit, a little perturbed because they didn't know who he was. And you got to show his ID. I got to show my ID too. But guess what? They like, hey, Ms. Green. I'm like, hey, they know you. And it makes such a difference when you have a relationship, whether it's for work, whether it's for money, it makes a difference because people will know you. They know your spirit. They know your work ethic. They know your heart. Just get to know the banker. It comes in handy. And so again, those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 accounts that are in Texas. My job was actually to advocate for these accounts, but I'm not there, so now somebody else is doing it. God is good. But those are the accounts that are in Texas. So when you do ask for those accounts, you have to know which account to ask for. I'm sorry. Yeah. So y'all have any questions? So anybody got anything they want to say? Give me some feedback. Anybody got anything they want to say? Because I want this to be like sharing of experiences, but we'll get there. So those are the accounts again. I think I got that up. Oh, I remember because I went to the website. But yes, so this is the list of the accounts. So how to save money using a bank or credit union. Understand your account. Does the minimum amount to maintain the account. Deposit the minimum amount to maintain. Deposit the minimum amount to maintain the account and don't spend it. Sometimes a bank will give you money to open an account. And if they give you money to open an account, don't touch it. That's the beginning of learning to be disciplined with the savings. Because if you don't touch it and they say, well, we're going to give you the $50 to open the account and that's the minimum amount to open it. Don't touch it. Now they want you to touch, well, the bank might not want you to touch, somebody wants you to touch it, but don't touch it. Because if you don't touch it and you start adding to it, the way to avoid overdraft fees is 2 things. Put money in there that you don't touch so you know if you go below a certain amount, don't go below that certain amount. And then 2, don't spend more than you can afford. If you don't have it, don't spend it. So what does it cost if I spend money that's not in my account and it's going to cost you overdraft fees and non-sufficient fund fees? So do your research. Choose a checking account that works for you. Bank on certified accounts are not structured with overdraft fees because what they realize is that if you don't write a check, you shouldn't overdraft. So they've created the account where you can't overdraft. That's what those accounts are for. If you have to choose to opt in or opt out of a checking account, so that's how to save money. Did I say that right? Yeah, if you have to choose opt in, you want to opt out. That's basically what I was trying to say. And then again, we already talked about this, turn off the overdraft fees. Opt out of overdraft fees to potentially avoid excessive fees. This is just a sample of, somebody asked me to come and speak one time on the 50-20-30 rule. And what that is that basically you use 50% of your needs, like your take-home pay, 50% goes to needs, 20% goes to savings, and 30% goes to wants. Of course, I would change that around and make 30% for savings and 30% for savings and 20% for wants. And so if you're tithing, I would say if you tithe, pay yourself 10%. My husband and I have a different way of communicating. So he's very analytical and I'm very visual. And so what I would tell him, like, babe, we really on the same page. Listen to me here now, okay? We on the same page. If we just go ahead and put the money in the savings account, everything will readjust. That means I'm not going to spend what I don't have because I want the savings to increase. Once you see your savings increase, you'll get excited. And if you will actually put the money in your savings account and readjust your spending, readjust your habits, readjust what you are doing every day, look at your friends, look at your habits, But put the savings in there, readjust everything else, your savings will actually start increasing. Does that make sense? Yeah, so that really helped me. Anybody else have any suggestions on how to save? Like, what do y'all do that helps you save money? Somebody tell me. Digit. I've heard that before. That's good. Anybody else use an app? Digit. Yeah, I've heard of that one. There's several of them. There's Digit. I think my son told me about Acorn. I think that's like a one that does something with learning to invest. There's Mint. Has anybody ever heard of Mint? Anybody else got any saving tips? See, I like that.
Always tell us, says now, if you make a dime, spend a nickel and keep a nickel. My daddy would come along and he said, now look, you go to the store and see something you want and you don't have the money to get it. Come back, work, and get that money and then go back and get it, because if you don't, you're going to be in debt all your days. So I don't be in debt all my days because I don't see too much I can spend my money on.
The key was you waited. And my husband says that all the time. Just wait. Like if you see something that you want to buy, just wait. 24 hours, exactly. And then if you go back, you might decide you don't even want it. Because that's a lot better than buying it and then having to take it back. Yeah, so just wait. So when you decide you want to buy something, just wait. That's right. And so this is some of the data that I also pulled up through Prosperity Now. It says that liquid asset poverty rate in Houston is 45.3%. Liquid asset poverty means that people don't have at least $400 to live above the poverty rate, money for emergency savings. So keep that in mind. So in Houston, it's 45.3% people are in liquid asset poverty, which is more than Texas. Well, a little bit less in Texas, because in Texas it's 45.9, but it's more in Houston than it is in the U.S. In the U.S. it's 40%. And in households with zero net worth, y'all know what net worth is? Assets minus liabilities. So that means how much cash that you actually have. Like if something happens, could you get cash for your assets? That's what the net worth is. So the net worth in Houston is 21.6%. And this is households with zero net worth. And in Houston, it seems to be more than in Texas or the U.S. And so we want to be in a boat where we're building wealth, where our net worth is increased. But again, let me say, like I said from the beginning, we all have made mistakes in the past. We can't focus on the past. We can't focus on fears. We can't focus on stuff that we did in the past. We have to start today where we are. And so build your assets, build your net worth, and create your best life. Eliminate debt and increase savings. So bank your banking to stack your cash. Don't let banking woes keep you out of financial mainstream. Instead, save a little to build a lot. Great banking relationships, like we mentioned earlier. When my daughter was in Dallas, she worked for a temp agency, and the temporary agency check bounced. You wouldn't expect your company's check to bounce, would you? So that means that's why we have to be in control of our own dollars, because you don't even know if your company check gonna bounce. So when she called back, I had to go to the credit union and say, look, talk to my daughter, because I had her on the telephone so she can explain the situation, but have a relationship with the financial institution, sitting there talking with him on the phone. He waived all the fees because she was living paycheck to paycheck. And she expected to pay these expenses, but now everything started hitting the bank. That was a good learning experience for her. But that's because you expect your employer, if they're gonna pay you, you expect them to have the money. But sometimes that's not the case. So we have to be in charge. So instead, what else I wanted to talk about? Home purchases. And I used to think I'm gonna talk a little bit about gentrification, because that's kind of happening in all of our communities, right? So I used to think gentrification, man, everybody coming in, moving us out. But you know what I realized what that really is? It's really us, like when things changing, we're not looking far ahead to be prepared for the changes that are coming, because we're so busy in the right now. And it's not even just about us. Sometimes it's about the systemic things that are going on And so if it's systemic, we have to look forward and say, okay, gentrification is coming. Maybe I need to save up on my taxes 10 years. Well, I might not be living. Well, you might be living. So we have to save up for those taxes so that maybe if our parents not here, practice saving that $100. Practice saving whatever you can. So when your parents are not here, you're able to stay in the house. And then we have to educate ourselves on what does that look like. So if gentrification happening and the community is changing, we can say, well, let me show somebody how I saved up to pay my taxes, because I want somebody in my neighborhood that look like me. So let's do this together. Taxes, pay your taxes, because I'm sorry, yes, ma'am. Gentrification, thank you. I think the easiest way to explain it is when the community is being shifted, right, to maybe upgraded, bringing in new stores, Acres Homes, the Heights, exactly. And the houses are changing, so they cost more now. And if it's going to cost more, what does that look like for you? And then gig economy. Gig economy sounds good. That means that you're doing Uber, Lyft, DoorDash. Everybody want to be in their own business, which sounds good. Don't get me wrong. I think it's great. But if you're going to have your own business, is it a business that's going to be profitable? Is it a business where there's a need for it? Because businesses are created out of a need. If there's not a whole bunch of people that need that product or that service, is it going to really make you wealthy, or is it just going to bring you enough money to pay your bills? So we have to think about business in that aspect versus just, I can have my own time. So sometimes the sacrifice means going to work at this company so I can see how the business is run before I go into business. Retirement. It used to be that they would have like a 401k, a 403b, and they would match your money like 2-to-1 or whatever. I don't even think that works anymore. When President Obama was in office, they had, it was called MyRA, My Retirement Account. All you have to do was put in $25 to start a retirement account. Okay, new president, they took that out. But what happens is that I was talking to, I think it was Fidelity or one of those financial services. It used to be where you have to have a lot of money to invest to have a retirement account. Now you can actually just go in and open an account with $25. But I would not have known that if I didn't ask. So sometimes just ask the questions. Don't be embarrassed. It's like I feel the way that at this age, I'm like, don't nobody know me. I don't care. They don't know me. I don't know them. I don't care how I sound. I'm going to sleep at night. I'd rather have my money in the bank versus on my back. Nobody knows I paid $2.50 for this dress. Who cares? So we have to think about what other people think. And I know that's easier said than done, but it's also part of the habit that we have to create. It's creating part of that best life. And so maintaining the minimum amount on the checking account will build discipline, improve your credit, pay bills on time. Don't ever think anybody wants to give you anything. Remember that old song, you can have whatever you like. Nope, you can't have whatever you like without paying for it. Nothing's free. Nothing is free. If anybody tell you something is free, realize that there's something to it. Ask him who's paying for it. Because even with nonprofits, we go out and do service. We go out and bring information to you through a nonprofit, but somebody's paying for that. Somebody's made donations, grants to pay for that service. So it may be free to you, but somebody else is paying for it. So nothing is free. Don't spend what you don't have. Consider the cost of living. So again, just like you said, ma'am, if we don't have to, we can wait on stuff. We have to consider what it costs. Like somebody's always trying to get money out of our hands. So keep your money in your pocket. Don't buy into the marketing schemes. I wanted to talk just a little bit about credit. I'm sure Marquez is going to have somebody coming in, spending probably a lot of time to talk about credit. But the reason I put this in here, the credit utilization rate, because when you decide to purchase a home or purchase a car or go get a loan, a lender is going to ask you, have you used all of your credit? They're going to look at this credit utilization rate. Basically, what that means is that if your card limit is $500, you don't want to, $5,000, you don't want to spend the whole $5,000. Because then a lender will say, well, she's up to the max. And actually, there's a documentary out there that's called Maxed Out. It's kind of sad, but it's true. But the documentary will go into like when people like max out their cars and how capitalism, people really make a lot of money off of people's spending behaviors. But here, the car limit, if it's $5,000, if you spend 2,500 of it, you spend 50%. If you've used up 20%, if you use $1,000, it's 20%. And the standard is not to use more than about 30% of your credit card, because they take all of that into consideration when they decide to give you a loan. But you can go to bettermoneyhabits.bankofamerica.com. But usually, wherever you bank, they will have some type of financial education on their website, or you can go into the branch and check it out. I just put this up here for like anybody that is interested in buying a home or anybody that has a home. What discipline will also do for you is allow you to pay off your house early. So a habit of saving money can help pay off a mortgage and pocket your interest payments. So has anybody ever seen this before? Again, I used to be a housing counselor. So if you have a $70,000 loan amount and the interest rate is 8%, it takes you 30 years to pay it off, and you've paid over $114,000 in interest. If on that $70,000 loan, you've paid it off, you prepay $50 a month, you will actually pay off the house in 22 years instead of 30. And your interest is only over 75,000 versus 114, because most of your house note is interest payments. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for saying that. Thank you so much. You're so right. Thank you. Because I did that one time. I put the money, I just sent it without putting principal. Like she said, you have to put the $50 toward the principal. If you don't put toward the principal, they're going to put it toward the interest. Thank you. That's crucial. I thank God I only did it once, and after that, I knew to put it toward, to say in the memo line, principal only, because otherwise they're gonna always put the money toward the interest, because that's where they're getting money. And then on the last one, the $70,000 loan, say it again. However you want to do it, actually, as long as you're putting it towards your principal. So just put money towards your principal, then it starts knocking down your interest payments. Now, I'm sorry, I can't answer that one. But whatever you put toward it, even if you're doing it bi-weekly, it's still going to knock down your interest and help you to pay it off faster. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. That's right. Go ahead, ma'am. That you can prepay the mortgage. Right. Do you want to say something? Yeah. Well, she was just saying that if it's in your, you have to make sure it's in your contract. Now that would be interesting. I would like to know what mortgage company would not want you to prepay. But I mean, that's true. You should ask. Always ask, because there may be a prepayment penalty. Yeah. So have you heard of a mortgage?
I just said I thought that the penalty for paying off something early was more associated with credit cards, not necessarily mortgages, but I guess every lender could be different.
So I have a question for you. So have you seen that happen where it's a...
That's one of the things that they told us to look for, to make sure that we can pay on the principal before we sign the contract.
Good point. Always ask questions, because things are changing so quickly. Now, when we bought our house, which was about 30 years ago, there was no prepayment penalty. And when I was doing housing counseling, there were not. But every day something changes. So always ask questions. The one thing I always say to ask somebody, tell me what it is I don't know or what you wish you had to ask when you're talking to a lender or a credit card company or a banker. The one thing I don't like about the all this online stuff, it's easier for those companies to take your money, but it's hard to get it back. So be very cautious and aware. But yeah, paying extra on your principal will allow you to pay off your house a lot quicker if you want to pay it off. Pay card or savings checking account. So a lot of people are getting, when they get employment, they have pay cards and they don't have like a bank account. And so then sometimes there's fees. Has anybody ever experienced that? My son used to work for AutoZone, although he had a bank account, but AutoZone, they paid him on the pay card instead of having a checking account or a savings account. I don't know why they didn't ask him, do you want your check to go into your bank account? They just put the money on the pay card. But to me, when the money is on the pay card, you're using the card to make purchases, to spend or make payments, and you can't like accumulate cash. You can't stack your cash. But if you're stacking your cash, it seems like you're spending it. Whereas if you have a bank or a credit union, you can accumulate cash. You can stack your cash. You can plan the purchases of assets. You can plan to buy a house or whatever you want to buy. And then you can also build your credit. So keep that in mind, because it seems like a lot of people are, trying to go bankless or not be in the bank account. But banking is actually easy if you have a discipline to save the money and you don't touch it. That way, you're staying within your budget. Yes, ma'am. Some people don't. I mean, that's my preference to pay it off. I mean, some people say taxes, but it's a personal preference.
Right up on the income tax. You can't.
My husband used to work for the IRS. You want to say something about that? About like some people don't want to pay off their house because they feel like they can write it off on their taxes.
I don't want to get on anybody's butt.
No, I like him to talk because if we didn't work together, we would not be financially where we are.
Most people say that a home is an investment. And if you believe that, okay, most people, it's a substantial number of people that are filing for bankruptcy, right? Because they can't pay their home mortgages. That is not an investment, okay? If I invest in an appreciating asset like you're familiar with stocks or bonds or mutual funds or gold or whatever, right? If my stocks go down, I won't have to file for bankruptcy. I lose money, but I won't file for bankruptcy because it won't cause me to, to be destitute or not be able to, illiquid. Illiquid means I don't have any money to pay my other bills, right? So it's up to you to say that your home is an investment for you. Yeah, 30 years ago, we bought our house. My wife didn't tell you this, but it was about $53,000 in 1990. But now it's worth almost $400,000.
And the interest rate was 12%.
Because it is appreciated, but you still have to maintain it. And then we say it's not an investment because we're not going to sell it. We'll be there the rest till we die, basically. It may be an investment for someone else, like our kids, but it's up to you whether you say it. Some people like flipping homes. Some people like, you could buy a house and then stay in it for 2 years, and then you can sell it if it has appreciated until it appreciates. But that's not my presentation. I'll let y'all do that.
No.
But
I'm bringing him on because we have built together, right? And so you have to be comfortable with your finances with each other. Sometimes that's why relationships may not work because people don't want to talk about it. If people are afraid to talk about finances with their spouse, then it's like, okay, you got to get comfortable with that. You may not agree. Don't get that wrong. Now, we might not agree on everything, but we agree to disagree on some things. And so I love he could say stuff to y'all that will be different because, I may ask a different question. I may not even ask the same question. So that's why I would love for you all to ask him whatever questions you want to ask him, and I don't mind him taking over. So go ahead.
But if you had a question, ma'am? Her question is, and whenever someone asks
Thank
a
you for
question,
asking
and I
that.
know the rest of y'all can't hear it, I work with an organization called the Office of Deaf and Hard of Hearing, okay? And hopefully y'all allow me to make that presentation to you all sometime in the near
Later
future.
date.
But always repeat the question so everyone can hear it and understand it over the loudspeaker. But her question was, what is my opinion about a reverse mortgage, okay? I would never do that. I mean, if you don't have any income to live on, then your house is the only asset that you have. I would say sell it. If you need to sell your home, I say, well, I hate to lose my house, all right? But if you're a senior citizen, and if you sell your home, and if you're able to have the wherewithal to invest it or keep it safe, the money that you got from your home, you can move into nice senior apartments that they're building around the city. You have socialization, you have a lot of activities, you'll see programs like this there, and you can save that money that you have to live on, to carry you probably the rest of your life. But if you get in a reverse mortgage, in most instances, you're going to get 50% of the value of your home is. I think I don't know what the maximum amount you can get. I'm not an expert at that, but I've heard you can only borrow 50% of whatever your home is worth. And then if you don't maintain insurance on the house, you don't maintain the repairs on the house,
Taxes.
And all of that, you can be foreclosed on for that, and you can't pay it back. And then what happens is your offspring, your children, if you don't tell them you have this reverse mortgage, because they think they're going to get a house when dad passed away, right? Or mom passed away. And that's not going to happen because somebody else owns that house now. And if they can't come up with whatever the value of that house is, or whatever the value of that loan is to pay it off, then the house is gone. It's gone. So it's like, it's like, this is my personal opinion about our home that we live in. If my children do not have the ability to manage their finances or have the ability to save money, I'm not leaving that house to them. I'm going to sell it. I'm going to say, sell it and give them the money. They do whatever they want with it because that house is going to be gone in a matter of 5 years because they're not going to pay the taxes on it. Somebody else is going to have the house. They'll be gone down the road with it. That's like, and the kids going to still be out in the cold. So, I mean, you're giving them money in a couple of years, they've blown through it. Or if they're smart, I've taught them how to invest it. They can, make that money grow for them, and their families will be comfortable for the rest of their lives. But if they can't do that, then there's no point in leaving them something that they can't manage, in my opinion. That's my personal opinion. However, everyone, we all have to have that walk, through life. So, and as we walk, we know this one can do it. We know that one can't do it. We know this one can, but then what's going to happen is, and then I don't want to delay y'all, but then they're going to get upset with each other, right? If you said this one can manage it and that one can't, nope, sell it, split it down the middle. Whoever manages it. Don't, they don't. So it's like, that's what I say now.
And with the reverse mortgage, actually, when my dad died, we had one of my siblings suggested that, but I'm glad we didn't, because actually when he passed, they came down and moved in his house. And so because we didn't have a reverse mortgage, it means that we were able to let somebody else come and live in the house. But if you do a reverse mortgage, just like your offspring, like you said, need to know about it, because otherwise they're not going to it's not going to be passed down to them. Can they pay the taxes? Can they refinance it to get the house in their name? Right. Then if you refinance, you got to add a credit. Yeah. Yep. Questions?
You talk about it. Y'all got an expert right here, so y'all don't need us over here. So, I tell you, thank you, Bishop. But he said that whenever the taxes come up, they got to be able to meet those taxes. And like when you're living in the house also, and with the reverse mortgage, if you spend the money, you still got to pay the taxes on the home.
And when you get older,
maintain the insurance on it too.
And when you get older, so when you get older and you don't have to pay taxes, and as your siblings, if your offsprings move into the house, like just because we were 65 or 60, whatever, and we don't have to pay the taxes, they're going to have to pay the taxes when they move into the house. Right.
Yeah.
I think just going forward.
What?
But, and I was going to say, I'm not a tax
Well,
expert, so you have to ask.
If you own a home today, and if you own it without a mortgage, they send you the tax bill every year, right? If you have a mortgage on it, then they send it to the mortgage company, the tax bill. You don't see that tax bill. Well, January 31st, if you don't pay that tax bill, then you incur a penalty. It's interest. The first one is 3% for not making making February 1st, right? You owe 3% on top of whatever you owe, right? Then if you go another month, then it goes up to like 10%, and then it keeps rising, till throughout the year. So there's a penalty until someone pays the back taxes on the property. So that's always going to be an obligation on a piece of property. That's called, tangible, real property. Mm-hmm. Now, I prefer to invest in mutual funds and stocks and companies. And now Congress right now is trying to pass a law to be able to for you to pay a tax on it every year. But right now, if you own those type of investments, then you don't pay a tax on it. It's not taxable until you sell it. So that's why I prefer to do that. So my wife prefer to have real estate. So it's like,
Well, I wouldn't say prefer. I'm more like, I just want to have a balance.
Okay. My balance is keep my money in my pocket if I can. And I was like, that's personal. That's personal to me, So, I don't want to have to pay taxes at the end of every year on a piece of property when I don't have to do that, So, right, exactly. Yeah.
Y'all have any more questions?
We never communicate bills or saving money, and so as a result, I think we're really behind
Right.
the other community. And I think if we don't start it somewhere, then our children will continually be behind, and the church will go under because we can't afford to pay tithes because we're just barely living. And I think we're living in an age that we feel like everything penny we get, we need to spend, and it's getting worse. And so I think this is excellent.
Thank you so much. And I'm so glad that he came. He don't know this, but I'm so glad that he came, because I think that we do need to talk about it more as a family. And when I say family, I don't mean just him and me. I mean a family, whoever your family is, if it's your 4 friends, if it's the church, it's a community. We need to talk about it and be honest about it. Like when we first got married, I don't like debt. So every paycheck, whatever little debt I got, I was always paying. I'm gonna pay this off every time. He like, well, why you keep sending off all the money? Because I don't like no debt. So right today, we probably got what, $3,000
Of what?
of debt?
Of debt?
Yeah.
We have a student loan, basically. It's like $2,500.
See there? But it's from discipline and sacrifice. You gotta not want to have debt. You gotta want to have what you want to have, but you gotta have cash and the money to have what's in your pocket to have what you want to have. And we have to really stop paying, again, just listening to everything that's telling us that we need to spend. But I think this is great because we can continue to have these conversations. Like, how can we together, and I'm asking you all this now, what do we need to do as a community to save money together? Bless you. What do we need to do? I'm just asking somebody, tell me something, because I'm always looking for a reason, huh?
Start with the budget.
Start with a budget. So anybody, that's a good, so we could do that next time. Anybody else, like, what do y'all think it takes? Does it take like having a support system? Y'all tell me, because I'm always, it's
Thing that you see.
okay. So let me
So
say
that's the way
this,
I do it.
because what I'm not trying to do, I'm not trying to give us advice. I want the people that want to say, tell me, what do you need to help you save. I don't think we should be giving advice on that. Like somebody tell me that you want to save and then what would help you save? Anybody want to say? Be bold, just say what will, like if you want to save and you have not been able to save, what will help you save so we can help you with that?
Less wants and more needs.
So is that what you want us to hold you accountable to? And how will we hold you accountable to that? Okay, so what do you want us to do? So like if you're trying to, and I'm talking like, so if that's what you want to do, does that make sense? Like if you want to save more money, and so that means that you want to have somebody to keep you accountable to not wanting, but to be accountable to just saving. So do you need somebody to say, okay, tell me your name? Felicia. Okay, so Felicia, next week you're going to save $1. Can you do that? Okay, so you can call me and let me know you saved $1. The following week, you're going to save $2. So will you do that? So I'm going to call you now. Okay? So somebody else tell me, what's your financial goal? What do you want to accomplish? And what can we do to help you do that? Be bold. Don't be afraid. This is the place where we're supposed to be, right? If this is the place we're supposed to be, we ought to be comfortable talking about it to say, because this is God's house. And what did I tell you today? I was saying today, I don't believe God meant for us to be broke. And if he does not mean for us to be broke, what's our point in that equation? What's our part in that equation? What do we need to do? He already did what he said he was going to do, right? So you tell me right today. So then when I come back next Wednesday, whatever you need to do, that's what we're going to do. Thank you.
Okay, for me, I think what I do save, but then what happens is what I save, my house or my car tends to eat it up. And so I kind of started feeling like, okay, I need to increase. Well, I do need an increase in finances. So I thought, okay, part-time job. Then I thought to myself, and I just had this conversation with my mom, and I thought to myself, I don't want to do that because I don't think that's what God intended for me to do, because it will take me from what I want to be a part of, which is my church and my kids. So I think what I started thinking, and I started kind of Googling, was how to invest, because I don't have a side gig. I don't have a gift to, make shirts or whatever everybody's little side gig is. So I'm like, okay, Lord, give me something. And so the thing I came up with is I need to learn how to invest in something to let my money work for me, because I don't want to be away from my church, and I don't want to be away from my kids.
So Pastor, I'm going to ask you, do you want to speak to this first?
Everyone in the building got to have a vision. You can, and everyone's vision is not going to be the same. But then he said, write the vision, make it plain. Then what is it going to take for you individually to accomplish the vision that God has put forth in you? It's gonna look different from house to house. But if you don't know where you're going, you keep doing what you're doing. So I think the assignment is, where do you want to be 5, 10 years from now? And then what is it going to take for you to get there? Somebody might say, okay, for me to get where I want to go, I need to save $100 a week. Somebody else vision might be a little more out there. They need to save $200 or $300 a week. Because retirement is closer to some people than other people. But the point is that you'll never start if you don't look at where you want to go. That's.
Thank you. So 2 things. I forgot your name, Miss Felicia. So I'm gonna give you my number afterwards, so I'll help to be your accountability partner. And then I have a question for you. So will your church be okay if you got the part-time job, if you felt you needed it? If you don't need it and you want to invest, do you have the emergency savings set aside so you can have the emergency savings before you invest? Because what I've also found is that people want to invest, but they don't have the emergency savings. And then if something happens, they're depending on the investment. But what happens if the stock market goes down? So you have to, you have to figure out in your spirit what will work for that.
I also think we have to learn to use what we have. Donna is an excellent decorator. She basically did the decorations of this church. It's houses going up all the time. The people need a person to decorate their houses. Find a way to go out and put flyers in. Do you need help decorating or something? Set a fee up and go out there and do it, because you already got in your pocket, you got all the skills it takes. You just got to market yourself.
See, I like that, because that means that's why we talk to each other, because sometimes we don't see our own blessings or skills that's right in front of us. So thank you for that. So we need to talk to each other. So try that. And then start with emergency savings. Okay, so who are you going to be accountable to work on that? All right, Mom. So when we come back next Wednesday, what I want everybody to do is write down, unless somebody else want to talk about it right now. Let me know. Anybody want to talk about it right now? Somebody else got a vision? Yes, ma'am.
And I really, sometimes I think I spend unnecessarily. As a matter of fact, I know I do. And sometimes it's hard for me to say no, especially to my family. If someone called me and say they need something, it's hard for me to say no. And sometimes I wish I could just say no. But it's hard for me. And I'll go in my savings.
Well, let me tell you, wait for this last slide, because I'm going to talk about that next time. So that's the other problem we have, that we always want to help everybody, and sometimes we don't have nothing to help anybody with. And then when it's time to retire, we don't have anything. I don't want to be in that boat. So what I've heard my husband from Mississippi. I love Mississippi. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to address her question, and I wanted to address yours as well. But I'm going to go to this young lady first. It's like, I don't know if you have an employer that you can save through payroll deductions. Well, that's a way to save, What you could do is this is what I'm getting at. It's like, if you have that money and put it into your 401k, and when your relatives say, I need money, you say, well, I need money too. I'm broke too. So, I don't have it. When you don't have it, you can't give it to them, right? So, but you do, and you're not really, being dishonest with them. You don't really have it. I mean, it's somebody else is holding it for you, So.
And it's going to cost you 30% to access it. So you don't have it, because then it's going to cost you, right?
I mean, it's accessible if you really, really need it, but, as long as you pay it back. But the money is, and when we do, this is the way we did when we were working. It's like, once the money goes in and you don't see it, you get used to, it being deducted from your paycheck. You don't even think about it anymore. And a couple of years to build up, man, I got that much money. But this is what happened to my daughter. And I think you could exercise this one too. It's like, that excellent idea for her. You can get your kids involved in what she just suggested to you as well. So everybody's working together. But every year, we get this great return on our income taxes, right? And everybody can't wait to get that income tax money back, right? And you actually loan the government that money, that, because that's your money, right? You could take that money when you get it. You may not have to save all of it, but maybe half of it and put it away for your emergency fund. So that way you don't go out and spend it all. What happened to my daughter was she knew she was going to get this big, large sum of money in the mail. And then the IRS says, well, send her a letter. They said, you didn't earn any money this year, right? Last year, right? She said, what? So it took her, she had to go back and verify for the IRS, sending them documents showing that she did earn money before they sent her that check. And she didn't get the check till like July sometime. And so my wife convinced her, says, well, okay, you've been waiting on this money, you didn't have it. Well, you don't have any money now. If you put this money away, you don't see it, you don't have it. If you put it in, an investment, and that way you don't go out and just blow it and spend it. It's there, for you, but you don't see it. So that's an excellent option, I think, is that And did you all know that if you want to really save money also, is that you could decrease the number of deductions you have if you're employed on the Uncle Sam will put that money away for you to the end of the year for you, and then he'll send you a nice large check. He won't send you any interest on it, but he'll send you that check. So and then you could take that money and do, it'll hopefully be discretionary money for you, so you can take it and don't spend it right away. Put it into savings or start a new life with it. That's a great, excellent way to do that. And we're approaching that time of year now. Everybody's thinking about what I'm gonna do with that income tax money when I get it, right? I know everybody's thinking about it right now. So it's like, so that's all I got. But that's a way that you can do that. So.
And for those of you that still live at home with your parents, or even if you got to go back home and live with your parents, don't be embarrassed about that, because that'll give you an opportunity to save some money. So what I have my daughter now is trying to save whatever little bit she can, $50, $100, so she can practice a habit of saving. So one day when we're not here, she's practicing saving so she can be able to pay the taxes, because I do see so many of us when we die, our kids can't hold on to the home. So let me go through this right quick. So create your best life, practice control. The management of self. The management of self is your overdraft protection. So don't spend money you don't have. Don't overspend. Don't incur excessive fees. Don't spend from your savings account. If you have it in savings, try not to touch it. Don't co-sign unless you want to repay. My daughter co-signed for a friend. I think it was about, was it $2,500 or $5,000 or something? Thank goodness, I guess the friend finally took care of it, but she ended up paying some of that money up front. Another young man at our church co-signed for somebody to get a car. I'm like, po baby. And his credit was messed up, because when you co-sign for somebody, you owe it. And it also messes up your credit because it takes up your debt to income ratio. If you don't even have a job, it's money that you end up owing. So that's a whole nother conversation. Do stack your cash, keep money in your savings account and a cushion in your checking account. Do save for the future. Only buy what you can repay. Only buy what you need. So that'll eliminate debt, and limit your debt, and then protect your credit. So I wanted to show this right quick. I don't know if you all seen this. This is like an old clip that I just loved way back in the day. I keep saying way back in the day, but saving or spending enough. So when I talked earlier about is it that you particularly want to do, think about that so we can work on that next Wednesday. Okay. So watch this clip.
Most to you says the most about advancing mutual rule by our policymakers, and may matter most to us. We're just retirement will help you get there.
So I'm not promoting Mass Mutual, but I do love their commercial. I just thought that was awesome, because it's like everybody's. Did I do that right? Oh, thank you. Boy, don't do this. Yes. Thank you. So do I skip this and go back? Hold on a second. Is it going to go back to I need to go back to the slide. Here. And then what? Yeah, I need to be on. Oh. Yeah. That's right. Right. Okay, yeah. So, about like, just talk about it. My son got to the point. My kids, when they... Oh, yeah, thanks. See, that means it's time for me to go home because I'm tired. It's been a long day. But I love this because we really need to have the conversation. Young people, old people, everybody, we need to talk about this. So y'all, thank you. I really appreciate y'all having me here today. So I want to end with this. Who or what is the steward over your money? Confronting costly behaviors, habits, emotions, and friends to create your best life. Faith without works is dead, James 2:14 through 26. So that means we have the faith, but we got to have the work to go with it. What are we going to do? So the next session will be about the power of no. Because a call to action is for each of you. How do we create a plan? How to create a plan to put you in charge of training your cash? Where do you want your dollars to go? So just like I said earlier, the ones we were talking to, it's not about me telling you all what to do, because we already know what to do. We already know. So write down your goal. What is it that you need help with? If it's not saying no, talk to me. I can tell you. Because growing up, I was the youngest. I have a twin. And my sister, they used to talk about me because I was hard on my nephew. My oldest sister had a baby, so he was raised with us. So I'm older than him. I'm like 10, 11 years older than him. And so they would tease me. They would say, I know you're not going to be like that with your kids. Well, yes, I am. And so because my mother and them went through bankruptcy and I saw what they went through, I don't want to be in that boat. So now what we do, I give you a plate of food. I might give you a place to stay, but you got to limit. We got to put some boundaries around things. And it's okay to say no. Because I think that we have been taught that we got to help. But you can't help if you don't have. And you don't want to end up in the boat where everybody else is. Because I tell people, who's going to help me if I don't have? I don't have anybody in my family that can help me. And I was working through a nonprofit, so I have to live every day like my job would end. Most people couldn't have stayed in that job knowing that every day you might not have a job. Well, that's how we should see our finances. Live every day. I don't care whether it's a nonprofit or for-profit. Live every day that you might not have a job. And think of the ark. When God put those two animals on the boat, we need not to be distracted by all the political rhetoric. We need to be saving our penny, nickels, and dimes while everybody else is distracted. We're getting our discipline together and building our wealth. And so, y'all, anybody heard of Dave Ramsey? So these quotes are from Dave Ramsey. Unless you control your spending, making more money won't help. You'll end up with bigger payments. Poor is a state of mind. Broke is a place you're just passing through. A goal without a plan is a dream. And I like this one the best. We buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like. So thank you all again for your time. I appreciate it. And you all have a great evening. I'll see you next week.
Oh, sorry. Amen. Did she do a great job? Amen. 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 Next week, the power to say no. Some of y'all want to say no, don't you? Come on now. Some of you just need to say no. Those shoes, no. That dress, that hair. Hey, Sister Carol, that family member, no. Amen. 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 They say insanity is doing the same old thing, expecting something different. And so I want to encourage you all that as we prepare for next week, let's start thinking about where we want to go and what we want to do. Really, actually, the kind of life we want to live. And because that'll let you know the steps so we can start planning some steps to get there. Amen. With some great help. Let's give her a round. Let's give them a hand. Amen. 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 For the next 6 or 7 weeks, I think, we're going to have someone in and encourage. I know everybody in here knows someone that needs some help. Am I right? So next week, there should be more people here. There should be more people, even from our ministry, there need to be more people here because we know we need the help. Is that all right? So let's encourage other people to be here on next week. Amen. 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 Y'all know it's Wednesday night, so it's time to be a blessing to the house of God as Sister Denise comes. Amen.